Howdy, howdy. We are live on another Friday night. Unlike the Hollywood system right now, which is like totally dead at the moment.
Right.
We'll see what happens there, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we also have a brand spanking new episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds just dropped yesterday. Still has that fresh new episode smell. It hasn't gotten any of the new worn off of it yet. So yeah, we'll.
Do we need to wear that nasal suppressant or whatever for this new smell?
Um, your mileage may your light years traveled via starship might vary on that one. That was terrible. But if you want to hear more poorly worded bullshit about Star Trek, you've come to the right place. So, and I see there's already folks in the audience. Howdy to everyone. Dave, I think we're ready to go ahead and get the show started.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
I'm Fathery,
This is Dave.
and this is what the fuck.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 249th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new. And tonight we're talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 5, Charades, written by Kathryn Lynn and Henry Alonso Myers. So Kathryn Lynn wrote the Lower Decks episode, Wage Douge. That was my favorite, the Three Ships episode, but that was my favorite until season 3 of Lower Decks. But yeah, so she wrote a serious episode of the comedy show, and then she wrote a comedy episode of one of the serious shows.
That's
And
funny.
this was directed by Jordan Canning, who is a Star Trek newcomer, but she's a comedic director. Looking at her Wikipedia page, she directed a lot of episodes of the show Schitt's Creek that I know is really popular, and a lot of people love that show and find it quite hilarious. So they went with a comedic director. I think this is going to be a fun, interesting conversation. I think it's one that might be divisive among people. You know, some people like the silly shit. Some people really do not. As a Deep Space Nine Ferengi episode apologist, I know all about those conversations. But before we dive
Hey,
into
Father,
that,
do you think if the internet had been around back in the day, do you think like a piece of the action and Trouble with Tribbles would have been divisive?
I mean, they kind of already were, because Gene Roddenberry didn't like those at the time.
Interesting.
But, you know, he
What a
didn't
killjoy.
always know best. See, Amos is agreeing with me. But yeah, Gene didn't always know. Shut up, Amos. I got to get a clean take of it for the podcast. Gene didn't. Gene didn't. Amos, come here.
See, now I'm sorry to say, Father, but that's good comedic timing on the part of your dog.
It is. He knew it was the comedy
you may,
week.
You may
so
not appreciate it.
He
but-
showed up. He knew the assignment. But yeah, Gene didn't always know best. There, got it in. But I might leave that whole bit in the podcast now. Editing decisions
I
to make
would,
Sunday.
I would.
But before we talk about more silly shit, I do need to do something that is serious, and that is give a huge thank you, shout out, acknowledgement to those wonderful, wonderful people in the Tex-Trek Patreon. Thank you so much, Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Dog, Geek Filter, Quarks Bar, Benjinium, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, and our anonymous supporters. We love each and every one of you, and we will be celebrating tomorrow. If you're watching this live on Friday, it's tomorrow. If you're listening later, you missed it, but it's okay, we do one every month. But tomorrow, we're having our monthly Patreon watch party, Saturday, July 15th. 3:30 p.m. Central, and we're going to be watching the Star Trek Voyager episode Flashback with Tuvok and Janeway going back to the Excelsior under the command of Captain Sulu, and Janice Rand has become his first officer, and the Klingon Kang is involved, and it ties into Star Trek 6. We're also going to watch the opening of Star Trek 6, see Sulu command the Excelsior, the Praxis explosion, all of that stuff. So it'll be fun to kind of see both of those things back to back the same day and tie it all together. So that's $2 a month to join the Tex-Trek Patreon. It really goes a long way when you're able to chip in a monthly commitment like that. That'll get you into the monthly watch parties. If you're able to be more generous than that, there's additional perks as well, but you can come in as little as $2 a month. And if you do the bridge crew level, $6 a month, you actually get to pick episodes on your birthday month. So that's seems to be getting to be a popular option among our patrons. So if folks are enjoying that, please let your friends know. And if you are a patron and don't come to the watch parties, because some of y'all don't, but I encourage you to check one out if you're free on a Saturday when we're doing one, because it's a fun group and it's fun to watch Star Trek with cool people. But with all of that out of the way, there's a little bit of news to talk about. The sad thing, I'm going to get it out of the way because I don't want it to get too overshadowed by everything else. But Star Trek Enterprise Season 4 showrunner Manny Coto, who in my opinion saved that show. He is the reason why I can say I like every Star Trek show. Because of Enterprise Season 4 is when that show finally won me over. So, but yeah, unfortunately he passed away a few days ago. He'd been struggling with, I believe it was pancreatic cancer, some form of cancer. Pretty sad, 61 years old. He was always a guy who I thought would be a likely candidate for, bringing back into one of these new shows. I thought, oh yeah, that's a guy, like, if he's not doing anything, hire him as a writer. He was also a guy, like, I always wanted to talk to. He's hadn't been very active in, like, the fandom scene or anything. It's not someone who did, like, a ton of interviews or anything, but he was always someone who, just personally, I wanted to meet and pick his brain about some stuff. But yeah, it's sad to see him go. I was a huge fan of his work. Dave, did I lose you? Hopefully we get Dave back. I think there's some subspace interference there. But I guess the other popular news item is the SAG strike that just started this week and will be going on for a while, it seems. There's currently no negotiations going on from the Hollywood studios, the elites and whatnot. But hold on, I got to do some transporter shenanigans to get Dave back in here. I think this is gonna work. I think we're beaming him back. Okay, that should have. I think that got him. I think we got him back. Are you with us, Dave?
Can you hear me, Father?
Yeah. So, between Amos and whatever StreamYard is doing to Dave, we're having a fun show. But yeah, Dave, I was just bringing up the SAG strike that started this week, and seems like it'll be going on for a while.
Yeah, it's one of these things that's both kind of anxiety, so. But it's.
Sorry, you're like a little choppy there. What was that? You're still there? I'm sorry. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. Not sure what's going on. Bear with us. We'll figure this out. We'll do the best we can. But yeah, the SAG strike, that's going to impact. But I guess like the immediate thing it's going to hit is Strange New World Season 3, which already wasn't in production because of the writers' strike. That's not happening. I don't think. Maybe like late this year, but yeah, I'd be surprised if they start. Oh, Y'all can still hear me, right? Am I still here? Joanne, Benginium, Braxton, whoever else is watching. Um, I'm not the one with the problem, am I? But the production on, okay, we lost Dave altogether. That's okay. Uh, the production on, I'm sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. The production on Strange New World season 3 probably not happening anytime soon, and that Section 31 movie that they were finally going to start production on, after all this back and forth of will they ever do the Section 31 project with Michelle Yeoh. They had that ready to go in October. They're about to start shooting. There was an opening in her extremely busy schedule. I don't think production on that will start in October, even if the strikes are resolved by then. Which I don't even know if they'll be resolved by then, with where there's so little movement and unwillingness to talk, to compromise. It's really sad. The people that are running Hollywood now, that have gotten so much worse. When I talked to Ira Stephen Bear recently, if you haven't checked it out, folks should go find that interview with Ira Stephen Bear from just I think 2 weeks ago. But one of the things we talked about was the writers' strike, and he has been on the front lines picketing, and he talked about how just the people making the decisions, the people running the business, are so incredibly disconnected from the individuals that actually do the work, that make the product, the writers, the actors, the other talents. There's such a huge disconnect, and there's an extreme unwillingness on them to compromise. We have Hollywood's been taken over by the tech bro culture, the Wall Street culture, people that are incredibly anti-labor, people that are incredibly anti-union. They're not used to dealing with unions, and they're just like, oh, we don't have to put up with this. We can just if they don't want to work, we can just tell them, well, go ahead and strike, and we'll just wait till you run out of money and you go broke, and basically just a big fuck you. We refuse to budge on anything. We don't have to. We're used to being these titans that people like Amazon, Netflix, Apple. They're used to just whatever they say is what goes, and they have expect they say jump and their employees say how high. You talk about like you people who work for Amazon and kind of like the bullshit that they go through, and yeah, now they want to do that everywhere. They want to do that to the film industry. They want to stop paying extras. They want to just like scan you and then just have like the same copy paste extras in every movie and every TV show. They're wanting to potentially in the future move towards AI, just not have writers, not have actors, and just have soulless art. I don't even think it would qualify as art at that point in time. And it's an insane amount of unwillingness on their behalf to we got Dave back for a little bit, and then I think we lost him again. Yeah, it's just an insane unwillingness on their behalf to compromise. So I see Subspace Chatter in the live chat is saying the AMPTP really needs to get a grip and accept the terms of the WGA and SAG. And yeah, it's not like that they're not even like accepting the terms. Like they're not even willing to sit down at the negotiation table. They're basically telling the actors like no, we're not going to talk to you until you stop striking and go back to work. And it's like that's not how strikes work. Like the whole point of a strike is to make you desperate until you're willing to talk to us. So we at Tex-Trek we support labor, we support unions, and we stand with the WGA and the SAG strike. I guess the other major concern is how will this affect the convention circuit. I've seen a lot of panic in the last 24 hours over what will be going on with Vegas and what will be going on with Comic-Con, and there is going to still be these conventions. I don't know if they're still going to do the animation panel that they were promising to do at Comic-Con. That's going to be weird. There's not going to have actors there. They can't have actors to promote it. They can still release the trailers and the key art, and maybe have I don't know. Maybe Alex Kurtzman can put his producer hat on instead of his writer hat, and maybe he can present something. Or they might just drop that Comic-Con panel altogether. I still think we'll get Lower Decks season 4 later this year, and I think they'll still drop a trailer for that around Comic-Con time. That being said, I don't know the case with season 5 of Lower Decks next year. That's in production now, and typically in animation, you record the voice actors. Uh, Dave, are you back to normal? Uh, don't have Dave. Um, but let me message them real quick, and see if because I can't talk and type at the same time. Do 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 do. He says his connection is spotty. Can you restart maybe? Try Ethernet cable instead of Wi-Fi. Do 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 do. Okay, but yeah. So I'm sorry. Where was I? This is hard to do with like me by myself. I'm not used to just talking to y'all directly. Um, I'm better when I have a conversation with someone. I do apologize about this. Uh, where was I? Um, Comic Con animation. Oh, Lower Decks season 5. I don't know if they've recorded all the dialogue for that. But if not, then there's going to be a delay on that because a lot of those voice actors are. I don't think all voice actors are SAG members, but a lot of them are, and they're going to be striking. So, uh, as far as Prodigy, hey, that's a show that they had everything. All the writers had done their work, all the actors had done their work. They had 20 more episodes ready to go, and that's the one that they dropped. So what a bonehead decision with Paramount Plus there. Uh, So, maybe this will make them decide, oh, we shouldn't drop Paramount Plus from our, we shouldn't drop Prodigy from Paramount Plus. We should keep it on. I actually would love that if they decided to hold on to the show and keep all the Star Trek shows together. If not, I'm not going to have much of an incentive to maintain my Paramount Plus subscription when there's no new Star Trek coming out. I would encourage other people to drop as well because these corporations, that's the only thing they understand is it's basically an entity that has one nerve that goes from its brain to its ass pocket where its wallet is. And that's all it thinks about is the money there. And the only way to get that creature's attention is the only way to hit that single nerve is impact their money. So, but hopefully the reason will prevail and the writers and actors will get a more fair contract, and things will proceed with more or less business as usual, and we'll get more Star Trek back in production soon. I know a lot of people are also worried about Star Trek Las Vegas. I promise I'll stop talking about the strike stuff in a moment. But a lot of panic on that front in particular. And we'll still have a convention. I think there's still going to be a lot of actors there. That's not an official con anymore. They're not doing that as part of their contract with Paramount or like to promote these shows that they're on. They're basically like doing that on the side with creation. They're still allowed to do photo ops, autographs, stuff like that. There's been a lot of concern about like panels. Are they allowed to appear on panels? And creation is currently, they're doing a Vampire Diaries convention this weekend. Paul Wesley is still supposed to appear Sunday. I think like the distinctions that like they can't talk about stuff that's currently in production. They can't promote it. They don't want to talk it up. They don't want to take questions on it. But they're allowed to promote themselves, their career, their past work, stuff like that. And hopefully we still have a great convention in Vegas in, what is it, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Yeah, coming up very, 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 very soon. That's going to be on August 3rd through the 6th. So yeah, that's 3 weeks away. I'm looking forward to going, and I encourage people, if you're there, if you see me, please holler at me, please say hi. And don't worry, Dave, he says he's trying to restart his computer, so hopefully we get him any moment now. But moving on from the news, we're starting to draw behind in the time. I'm gonna quickly recap this episode for everyone by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll kind of expand on it with spoilers. But the official synopsis reads: a shuttle accident leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by aliens, making him fully human and completely unprepared to face T'Pring's family during an important ceremonial dinner. So yeah, it's basically hijinks all over again. Like we have the hijinks in it was also episode 5 of season 1. I guess every episode 5, is Strange New World season 3 episode 5? Is that gonna have a Spock T'Pring sitcom story as well? It seems to be a pattern. But yeah, this episode is basically, what if Spock had get turned fully human and had to deal with that and have a hard time with that, and the funny shenanigans that come up with that, and having to do the kind of relatable thing of do the social obligations of appealing to his fiance's family, and it's a tale as old as time with a lot of that stuff, and kind of the awkwardness and relatability and the humor involved with that. Eventually, everything is resolved in the end. He's turned back to normal, half Vulcan Spock. But him and T'Pring seem to be on the outs for now, and him and Chapel seem to. What's the opposite of being on the outs? They're on the ends. They're getting real kissy there at the end, and implied much more. So. And I think that might ruffle some feathers, but that was in the trailers. We all knew it was coming, so I'll go ahead and give my opening statement before we go into the nitty-gritty details of this episode and break it down, but just kind of my general impression with it. I had a phenomenal time. I had a great time. I loved it. I was laughing my ass off the whole time. I got so invested in so much of the dumb, silly stuff, like, oh my god, is T'Pring going to approve of the tea? I'm on the edge of my seat watching that. So totally silly, totally ridiculous. But there was a message to the episode. It kind of talked about different cultures. I think biracial people can probably relate to some of that stuff in here. I think people who are in marginalized societies and they try to fit in with. They have a romantic partner whose family is bigoted, and the pressure that comes along with that, and just kind of the assholes you can encounter, and how satisfying it is to finally stand up to them at the end of the episode. So I wasn't expecting that, and I got a huge thrill out of that. But also, being human is hard. That's something that I think we all can relate to. Life is hard for all of us at times, some more than others, but I think we all can agree that being human is often very hard. And Ethan Peck presented that phenomenally well. He was great in this episode. He was just killing it with it's a complicated thing to do as an actor. Like, how can I play my character Spock, but as a human, Spock is trying to play Spock as a Vulcan, but he doesn't do it as well as I do it. So, how do you add in all those layers as an actor? But he was totally here for that assignment. He sold this. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I also loved the Christine Chapel stuff in this episode. Just separate from Spock, I liked her risking it all to save her love. I liked her using her, her intelligence, her skill set, proving that she is a badass in her own right with a Vulcan Fellowship dude. And as just as satisfying as it was to see Spock stand up to T'Pring, it was equally satisfying to see Chapel turn down the Vulcan Fellowship and tell them, nah, y'all ain't good enough for me. So, this episode was a blast, and I really love the show. I love Strange New Worlds. When Strange New Worlds is really good, it's such a great feeling it gives me of all the current Star Trek shows. This one just it knows how to get me. It gives me the feels. I've had a tremendous amount of fun with these 14 or 15 episodes. Yeah, so man, we're halfway through season 2. That kind of makes me sad. I'm having a good time, and I haven't even loved everything. I was kind of meh on episode 1 and kind of meh last week, but 2, 3, and 5 just knocked it out of the park. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead, and if Dave comes back, we'll share his opening statement. Otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the episode breakdown. We're gonna start off talking about the beginning of the episode and the downtime there, and because Dave is not here, hopefully he'll be back soon. But hopefully we get him back. But y'all can be a little bit more chatty with me and add some comments and give me some stuff to bounce off of. That'd be great. So please, this would be a great time for folks to get opinionated in the live chat and tell me what you think about these scenes as we go through it. But yeah, starting off, we get that log entry from Chapel, and they're passing through the Vulcan system on their way to Kirkov, which is kind of a funny name for a moon. You know, it sounds like the shipper name for Kirk and Chekhov, like Kirkov. But it's fun to see Chapel kind of, I guess, preparing, getting all like giddy and nerdy and excited for her interview for this Vulcan fellowship, and going through the 3 rules. She's being quizzed on the 3 rules of archaeological medicine. Corby's 3 rules. We'll get our first Corby reference. But yeah, I thought the rules were kind of cool. The medicine is always ancient and new. That's kind of cool. And it's a study of history as well as science. And so, you know, archaeological medicine, I kind of get an idea of what that is. This episode also finally gives us the Port Galley, that set that they teased they were adding for season 2. And in addition to the mess hall, they can also have like some fun hangout moments on the Port Galley, which actually looks really fun. I would love to like go chill there and get drinks there. It'd be a great place to. I wish there was a bar like this at the Rio in Vegas, because when I'm there at STLV, we can. Yeah, Starfleet boy, Dave is gone at the moment, so I can send an invite your way if you'd like to hop on. I think Dave is coming back. Dave, how's it going?
Sorry to everyone for fucking around with the with the timing here. I'm doing okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Let me see if I can jump in here so Sohail doesn't have to. But
Well, what was your? I just gave my opening statement on this episode. Long story short, I thought it was fun and funny. I kind of liked it as much as I liked the body swap episode last year. This is kind of a spiritual sequel to it.
Yeah.
But Spock Amok last year. But Dave, what was your broad takeaway on this one?
So I really liked Spock Amok. I thought that was a really good one. This one was more uneven for me. It was maybe I don't know how to like say what was different about it. Like it felt goofier to me, maybe, even though I liked some of the sort of emotional highs of it too. But like the sillier stuff was maybe a little too silly, and I kind of thought the domineering mother-in-law trope is maybe something that's a little dated. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, this is kind of like she's kind of emotionally abusive to everyone, and we're still playing it as a gag. And I don't know if it was that, or if I just thought it was too silly that Ethan Peck was like popping grapes in his manic teenager mode. I thought it had really good performances from everybody. I thought Jess Bush was shining in it, and Ethan Peck was doing a good job. And I don't know the name of the actress who plays his mom right now, but she was doing really good. But as a sort of comedic episode, I wasn't laughing as much. It wasn't hitting for me. It didn't do whatever Spock Amok did right for me.
Okay.
So
interesting. Of the two, I think I actually prefer this one quite a bit. But
really,
Matthew Averett in our live audience with a very generous super chat, $5. Thank you so much, Matthew. He says, "Funniest episode ever. Peck was awesome." And yeah, that was another thing that I credited was I thought Ethan Peck was amazing.
It's funny. I'm not as kind of plugged in on some Trek stuff as I think. I'm not on Twitter. I don't like see a lot of immediate reactions when I watch an episode necessarily. But what little I've seen, people seem to be mostly really liking the episode, and I feel like I'm like Data or Spock when they're like, "Computer, tell me more about humor."
You're Spock in his log entry when they're all sitting around
Yes.
joking with Ortega's, and she has that. We don't know what the story was, but some anecdote where she's like, "So I said thanks for the whatever," and took off in the shuttle with all their uniforms still inside, and they're all like, "Ah!" Ha, 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 ha," and Ethan Peck's just sitting there like,
And I'm like, I give it the raised eyebrow.
I'm so dumb. I'm like showing screenshots of what I'm talking about, but it's like none of y'all can see it because I'm not sharing my screen at the moment. Yeah,
sorry, I threw off the game here.
Oh, that's okay. There he is. But
by the way,
you frequently struggle with comedy for people who don't
I think that's true. Although, like, some of my favorite episodes are Piece of the Action, Trouble with Tribbles, Trials and Tribulations, Magnificent Ferengi, to name one of the DS9 ones you were talking about earlier. So certainly there's some I like, but I think when it veers a little closer to what I kind of think of as like that Guardians of the Galaxy borderline slapstick, sometimes it just doesn't hit for me. But obviously some of the ones I just named, they veer into slapstick too. So I can't pin down what's different about it. Maybe I just don't like the mother-in-law trope. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see why that would turn you off to this episode. But we open with these two log entries. We get to see Chapel getting ready for her interview, and we get to see Spock talk about how he's dealing with the increased emotions after he dropped his mental blocks in season 1, but he seems to be coping with it very well. It's like, hey, I'm going to therapy and it's working. And Dr. Mbenga has really helped me out. They're celebrating all this downtime, which I found pretty relatable because I had to work so much in June, and just like this last week, like a week of only working 52 hours feels like, oh my god, I have so much freaking free time to do whatever. I guess I used a lot of it making content anyways and streaming Star Trek Prodigy. Speaking of which, hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. Folks can go watch my streams of the game Star Trek Prodigy Supernova. A lot of our regulars that are here now, Rachel and Joel and Joanne were watching me play that game, and it was fun. I felt like I was playing it with like a group of people, and we were like talking about it back and forth. You get to watch the game with fathery commentary, so it's kind of like a big season of Star Trek Prodigy with a fathery commentary on it.
And you got to fight fathery. Who's the enforcer robot?
Dreadnought he's the final boss.
You can see fathery fight Dreadnought. I mean, what else? How does it get better than that?
But yeah, we got a lot of free time. They're kind of Spock can explore new hobbies like cooking, and Chapel's getting ready for her interview, and then T'Pring all of a sudden is like, oh, that Vulcan engagement dinner, the Vishal, like we should totally do that now, which Spock's not terribly excited about. We see why later, that her family is not specifically her mother is not a easy to please person. But then we have the awkward shuttle ride with Chapel and Spock, which turns into a shuttle crash, and then Spock wakes up human.
Yeah, I thought they were doing a good job there of I don't know, trying to be professional, but tiptoeing around awkwardly what they were both feeling.
Yeah, it felt pretty real though. It felt like you kind of can see things from both their points of view, and like you're like, yeah, that would be like awkward, and there'd be weird tension, and I think that what makes it worse is that like Chapel like really wants to talk about it, and Spock really doesn't. He's like ignoring her in the turbo lift and stuff.
Do you think he definitely doesn't? I mean, he's forcing himself not to, but
sure,
I think he wants to.
Yeah, no, but I think he's being more firm on resisting it.
Right. That is true. He is like he absolutely has more drive to try and to resist.
And in our live audience, Joanne Robertson is saying, I think Dave would be into Gwendola's stabby stick thing. That's one of the things we were talking about playing the game, Dave, is our audience would like to see the two of us play it with split screen co-op, where each of us is controlling a character. So
yeah, we did talk about that. I think once upon a time. It's just we don't see each other as frequently now since we do Tex-Trek digitally.
Yeah, the majority, even though like Dave and I like live within 12 miles of each other, the majority of the time I see him, it's on this little square on Tex-Trek. or I go shop at his store like 1 or 2 times a month. I see him there, but
it's true.
But he does come over to my living room to watch movies on occasion. We can probably play that game at some point. So because there's going to be delays in Star Trek production, we're probably going to be looking for things to make content on. So we'll have things to discuss in the future. But
yeah, no doubt.
Are you ready to talk about like human Spock, like him like post waking up as human? Or is there anything like in the opening you wanted to get off your chest?
I did want to just say that I did like seeing the downtime with the crew. Those moments where it feels like it is just kind of maybe the actors coming through a little bit. Oh my goodness!
The same writer as Wage Douge, because that was the thing in that episode when Kathryn Lynn wrote that episode. Yeah, that's when they were all trying to like make friends with some of the bridge officers. Mm-hmm. Because they had like all this down. You had like Rutherford was doing pottery with Shax, and Boimler wanted to go hang out with Ransom, and Mariner is spending time with her mom. There's that awkward conversation where like Boimler's like, oh, I'm gonna go in the holodeck and hang out with Mariner and her mom, and he goes in there and they're having like this argument of like, Mom, you didn't have to tell Billups that I get bad cramps when I'm on my period. He doesn't need to know that. But and then Boimler just awkwardly walking out of the holodeck. But
Boimler was the Pike.
Yeah, well, speaking of, Anson's pretty damn good in this episode. And I gotta applaud him for being a lead man who will so eagerly I assume he's eager to do it because it's happened a few times, but he doesn't mind stepping off to the side and being a background character.
That's true.
William Shatner famously demanded more close-ups and more screen time. Anson Mount does not have that issue.
Yeah, William Shatner wanted people to see his skin pores. But that is pretty cool about Anson Mount. He actually seems to be in some ways as laid back as Pike is meant to be himself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally, but he seems like a pretty cool dude. He seems like a very like thoughtful, considerate guy. Like I don't always agree with him, but he seems like he's always trying real hard to do the best thing for the most people.
Right, I agree from what little I've seen.
I mean, maybe like he's secretly like a closet asshole. I'm gonna assume he's probably not, but I mean, we never know for sure what people are, what's in their hearts. But just the optics on him, he seems to be like a pretty stand up dude.
Yeah, little centrist, but
Let's go into the Spock learning the human stuff. They're investigating the shuttle, which was miraculously repaired. It says like spotless, and like Chapel didn't have like a scratch on her. Spock turned human, so they're dealing with something really weird here. These mysterious Kirchhoff aliens, and they find their little calling card thing. So like Uhura, not in this episode very much. I think we're getting a Uhura-centric episode next week, but. She figures out like, oh yeah, this is a calling card, and I loved how giddy Pike got when he's like, oh cool, alien first contact, and to me it felt very TOS, like, oh, the captain on the bridge of the Enterprise looking at the view screen talking to like just like some weird ball of light that's meant to represent like an advanced alien. It all felt like extremely original series to me, but how did you feel watching this stuff?
Just as a quick aside, Una didn't get a ton to do in this episode, but she shares a little look with Pike there when he says first contact or whatever, and he's got that kind of excited look. And I just thought it was one of those, like, their bond and their chemistry is such that even like just a second or two like that can feel like like these are real characters. And like you, yeah, I kind of like the classic put it on the view screen. Let's see what we can figure out. And of course, it's um, one of the a more lighthearted thing overall is this is not a serious first contact. This is a little bit more like you called and you've been put on hold, or you have to get through some.
Yes.
You have to button push to get through to an operator.
I loved Yellow and Blue. I like how like when Pike calls and he's like, "So what are you exactly?" And Yellow's just like, "Yo, you called me."
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite lines, I think, and it was the "you called me," and he kind of sheepishly is like, "That's true." um, this is I'll say this. This is I was not fully plugged into the episode, but this is a solid premise for a lighter-hearted alien contact, and one we haven't seen before. I really can't think of anything quite like it. Sometimes aliens, like the prophets, don't understand our linear ways. Well, this was, a pretty clear spoof of sort of, I guess I'd say like this sort of bureaucratic, like a bureaucratic answering machine. I don't know. Father, were they spoofing anything in particular?
No, I don't think anything in particular, but I mean, like, we all kind of get it. It's like, oh, these, like, super advanced aliens, like, what if they like, okay, they kind of had, like, everything figured out. They had, like, rules and procedures for everything, but then they do kind of like, turn, like, these bureaucrats where they're like, oh, shit, our wormhole, we hit, like, another car. Okay, we're liable for this. Let's repair it. Oh, like, well, man, like, this guy's, like, DNA is all weird. Like, oh, okay, we'll just, like, make it match hers. Okay, cool. Okay, that's done. Okay, check that off the list. Cool, we're done here. Move on to the next thing. I'm gonna clock out tonight and go to the pub or whatever. It's basically like they're just going about business as usual for them.
Right. They're benevolent in their way. In a weird way, it reminds me of the lighter-hearted version of the RoboCop scene where he stops a sexual assault and then he robotically tells her, "I will notify a rape crisis center," and then just like walks off.
Yeah, I mean that was a bit more satirical.
Right. But this is like this sort of, yes, these guys seem more benign.
Yeah.
Just clueless.
In the meantime, Spock is going to be human until they learn how to fix it. Because that the person that they called at the call center was like, "Oh, yeah, we fixed it. Okay, then why are you talking to me? Oh, that's fine. You don't have to tell us. Thank you. Everything's good here. I gotta move on to my next call. Bye." So Spock is going to have to learn how to function as a human, and he makes the choice. Well, I'm still going to go about my duties. I'm still going to go about my obligations on the ship. So I like that they kind of acknowledge that, because I'm sure like if he like asked like for some time off, they'd give it to him. But so he starts having very human experiences. Like he's hangry. He enjoys the smell of bacon, gets to try bacon as the first time, because Vulcan, he doesn't eat meat, so he's like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, yes, bacon is very amazing. He can laugh at jokes now. He gets super pissed at Sam Kirk for making a mess on the table. What I said in my opening statement that you didn't hear was that, I think part of the message of this episode, in addition to kind of talking about, growing up biculturally or biracially, or with a marginalized group, and you're trying to like marry into someone else's family, and just the payoff of seeing the assholery that comes along with that, but then like the payoff at the end when you finally like stand up to them. I thought that was really cool, but also like there's a message of like being human is very hard. And something like we all kind of experience, but we see Spock kind of go through that as well. And yeah, like having to like control your temper during work meetings, or dealing with feeling hangry and stuff like that. It is pretty difficult. Or trying to control your horniness when La'an is having the talk with you.
I suppose sometimes humans on Star Trek, we're often, the old '60s view was sort of a troubled, like we're sort of like troubled kids, but trying hard. That's kind of, what they wanted to, showcase in humanity. but and every once in a while it can kind of feel like we're like the dumbasses of the galaxy or whatever. So yes, I kind of appreciate that the show was like, oh yeah, th- this is not an easy life. We're bounced around by emotions and hormones and all this stuff, and I appreciate that. I think when Data finally became human in Picard season 3, he hit some of that too, didn't he? He was like,
Uh,
"Oh, it's not like all good. Like some of this is tough." I know that there was something he
yeah,
said.
I guess it was more like along the lines like his knees hurt and stuff like that. It was more like being old, I think,
Yeah,
which is part of the human experience. And I'm glad Data
that
gets to
comes with
experience that.
yeah.
Even though I would have preferred he stay dead and not get resurrected, but what they did with resurrected Data, I liked. Um,
You know what's? I thought that Spock's puberty stuff was too much. It was. If Vulcans are going to be vegetarians, I want them to, take it at least with some seriousness and not have him just start chomping on bacon because that's funny. I don't know. I I like bacon, but it fell flat for me.
no. I was happy for him when he tried it, and I think a big part of it was like Ethan Peck sold all of it. Like I thought that the way that Ethan Peck played,
You didn't think it was too over the top? Like when he was eating those grapes, he was like that's even beyond like what a teenager does.
when was he eating grapes?
Oh, I don't know. It looked like he was eating grapes. He was popping something into his mouth as
I
while
missed
other
that.
characters were doing something in the background behind him. Like Pike was
No, what
talking to
I
somebody.
loved is that he would be like he would be weird and like over the top expressive, but like he still felt like Spock. Part of it I think was how well the dialogue was written. But like when he talked about like the bacon, how amazing it is. He doesn't say like like a typical human would say something like, "Oh, I gotta have more. Like I need more of this." But he says, "I must have more." But he says a very Vulcan sentence in a very human way, and that impressed me. And also just later when we get into like Spock act, I thought it was so cool how human Ethan Peck is really good at playing Vulcan Spock. And so I loved watching human Ethan Peck play human Spock be very bad at playing Vulcan Spock. And like
Well,
like in like Photoshop or something like that on a or even like a lot of like software and stuff with like images, how like you're dealing with like layers, how you have like a background layer and then like you put like these other objects on top of it and then you want to have like effects on top of them, but there's like
mhm.
different layers. I felt like he was like acting like different layers
uh,
on
you
top
know,
of each
um,
other.
yeah, I kind of like that metaphor. That's good, even though I thought it sucked. But
You didn't really think
no,
it sucked though.
no, I didn't think it sucked. I thought he was. Here's what I thought he was
You
doing.
can't.
I thought he was doing
People
a
are gonna
great.
take you literally, so you gotta keep that
I
in
thought he
mind.
was doing a great job of acting out a script. I think that was too over the top for me.
Oh, okay.
But I thought he was doing very good. And to your point, Fathery, he I remember when he did Spock Amok, and I think there was a thing in they talked about in the Ready Room where he and who's the actress who plays T'Pring?
Uh, Gia Sandu.
Yeah, didn't they like rehearsed and practiced their stuff out, kind of behind the scenes. They didn't like not even at official rehearsals. They like did extra rehearsals on their own to get their comic timing down. And I feel like that seems to be indicative of Ethan Peck's kind of devotion to his craft in this. He's really trying to make sure that he's servicing the script, I think.
Yeah, and it might be because he got to explore a wider range in this episode than in anything previously. But this has impressed me as Spock more than anything he's done in the years he's been Spock since Disco season 2. Um, so I'm very very happy that we're gonna get hopefully more and more seasons of him as Spock, especially since this show isn't afraid to be, a bit more experimental. What's one of the saddest things to me about this, Dave, is that I wish this had been an episode of the original series, just so Dr. McCoy could be witnessing all of this. Can you imagine like the field day he would be having?
Yeah,
Like
I
one
imagine
day,
him kind of jokingly buddying up to Spock. He's like, Spock, I've been through this before. I can advise you on this.
I hope that at some point Uhura was like, Doc, I gotta tell you about this one time. Before you were on the Enterprise, back in the Pike days, what happened to Spock? You're gonna love this.
I think he wouldn't have believed it. I think he'd be like, Spock
then she'd
yelled
be
at
like-
someone.
She'd be like, oh, well, you can ask Sam Kirk when we see him. But, then he gets killed by fried eggs. So.
Dark turn of events.
But the other thing that I really loved in this episode, in addition to Ethan Peck, was a lot of the Nurse Chapel stuff, and I love that you got to see her really flex her science muscles. But also, I've always kind of been a sucker for like the romance between Spock and Chapel on Strange New Worlds. That's always worked for me. That was another highlight in season 1. Just the Serene Squall episode when they had to like fake their love in front of T'Pring and Angel, but it was actually like true and sincere. That really like made me buy into it, and I'm
both
still
of these
on board
episodes
with it.
and both these episodes and this episode, that episode, and a lot of Trek is about like weird sci-fi circumstances that somehow have to bring our emotions and our our subconscious stuff we're trying to hide into sharper relief. And it's something that she was doing a really good job. I like them together, and I know we'll see more of it. Clearly there's going to be more of it.
Yeah,
but ultimately we also know where it's headed.
The sad thing is that like we know that they don't work out, and we know that him and T'Pring don't work out. So
I mean, Spock is destined, I guess, for a bachelor's life. He will spend the next many decades of his life.
He will
right?
go into the Kelvin timeline a bachelor, and then we don't know what happens on New Vulcan in the Kelvin timeline.
That's true. The stories at least haven't made a point of it.
What if he meets the Kelvin T'Pring? And even though he's like a super old man and she would still be like much younger, like what if he meets like the Kelvin T'Pring and for some reason like they hit it off?
I mean, I'd be for
I think
it.
that's actually weird. I think it's too weird, but
maybe it's too weird. Maybe it's getting too Back to the Future. I don't know.
I know if I went into an alternate timeline, I would be like, so the women that I dated in my timeline, what are they like over here? But that's just me. But yeah, Chapel gets so into finding a cure, she almost forgets about her interview with the Vulcan jerk. Who, Bingenium, if you're still here in the live audience, please let me know if I can repeat what I saw you tweet on Twitter about this character, because I thought it was a hilarious reaction. But
that guy was very intense. He had like the neck of that Batman's cowl from Batman '89.
He looked like a jerk. I don't know what it was about like his hair, but just like I don't know. He looked like a lot of Vulcans come off as like real bitchy, but he seemed particularly bad.
They visually made him of course, look stiff by giving him the stiffest possible outfit. Kind of looking like a TNG Romulan there of some sort. But he was another one of those characters that I found was like a little too goofy for this one. He's obviously an over the top stick up his ass Vulcan in the tradition that we've often seen. But him dressing her down with no nuance, I felt like he was one note. I guess that's how I'd put it.
Yeah, totally. He's
not that
he has like 30 seconds of screen time, so I don't know how many notes he can play in there, but
a good actor can do that, but it wasn't what the script was calling for.
Bingenium said on Twitter, I'm going to paraphrase, but he said, "I don't know why, but I want this gay Vulcan professor to be mean to me," or something along those lines. that was an interesting way to react to this moment, but I like how
everybody's somebody's daddy out there.
I liked how Spock reacted to it when he saw her in distress, and that like, I guess like moments like that where like you see like genuine concern and stuff like that's the real romantic stuff, right? Like that's
sure.
And
You know
I
what?
liked his reaction of like when he gives her the hug, he does a very human thing and kind of catches her off guard, but then he like questions it. He's like, "Oh, did I read this moment wrong?" Because he's so used to being that guy at the table not laughing at the joke who doesn't get it. And I liked that. Like I like here, like I like you kind of have Chapel's temptation where she's like, "Oh, he's so much easier. You know, I couldn't get him to talk to me before, and then here he's coming up to me in the hallway and hugging me." But what do you think?
Right, but she also knows something is off in that. She said you're not yourself or something afterwards, and later on at the end of the episode, when she's talking to the what do they call
Kirkovs.
it? The
Kirkov.
Kirkovians?
Yeah, they say Kirkov and Kirkovian,
Uh,
kind of like
no,
last week when
it's Kirkovian.
they mainly well sometimes they say Kirkov, but that's
Oh,
like
okay.
what Blue says, like I am a Kirkov. But it's kind of like last week how they normally said Kalar, and then like one time Ortega said Kalarans. And it's kind of like people always say Vulcans in Star Trek, but then one time in Court Martial, Spock said Vulcanian for some weird reason. So I guess like sometimes you just throw that extra IAN on the end of a species.
Yep. This that uh, um but yeah, I liked when uh Spock was pulling her leg and said he's making a shower, and then he like slaps her on the shoulder. But overall,
You still there, Dave? I think we lost Dave again.
how am I right now?
I heard like right now. Are you still there?
You can hear me, Father?
I can hear you. Yes. Jill 47 is letting everyone know we are experiencing technical difficulties.
I'm here,
Please
but I
stand
think
by.
I'm getting okay. It seems like I'm getting that technical difficulty.
What's that? I'm sorry, y'all. It's that nebula near Dave's apartment. I think it causes some subspace interference from time to time.
Father, you hearing me okay right here?
But yes. So I'm trying to talk about Amanda's arrival and the prelude to the full blown hijinks that we get after that. But to complicate matters, Amanda shows up on the Enterprise. It was a very like sitcom-y type thing, which I don't mean that as a criticism. I think that's what the episode was going for. But like, oh yeah, like worst possible time, Mom shows up, and I got really nervous during the scene. Like, oh no, are they gonna do like a stupid thing where he has to like do this ploy to like not tell his mom what's going on? And I'm so glad that it was only like one scene, and then it was a. We lost Dave, but hopefully hopefully he comes back. But in the meantime, let's talk about Spock and Amanda's conversation with Spock and the beanie. That, for some strange reason, they put the Starfleet Delta is on backwards, like the kind of like the little swoop at the bottom. It's on like the wrong side. So I don't know if they just like. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if like they printed that thing wrong or if they just glued the wrong side on or what exactly happened there. But oh, it looks like Dave's back.
Yep. Well, hopefully it'll stick.
Can you hear me, Dave?
I can, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes. Yeah, I think we can hear each other.
Yeah, sorry, there may be some delay.
Yeah, Oh, are we like out of sync? Um. Okay. We'll try to get Dave's stuff figured out. But one thing that disappointed me was I thought we were going to get Palia in this episode. I thought we were going to have Palia and Amanda together. Because they made like a big deal in season 2, episode 1 of how like they were friends, they knew each other. They were more than friends. Like she was like, "Oh, that's the first person that came out as a what were the Immortals? The Lanthanites? Yeah, the first person that came out to as a Lanthanite was your mom." Um, but yeah, I was disappointed that we don't see them together. I know Carol Kane's only going to be in a limited number of episodes, but I hope that we see Amanda and Carol Kane together later in the season. Or I'm gonna be sad if they just like never do that. Surely like that's the case, but I don't know. Dave, were you sad there was no Palia again this week?
I don't mind her being a guest star. Do we know how many episodes she's going to be in?
No, I saw Jill 47 post that she's in next week's episode, so I'm assuming she was on like in the clip that they showed on the Ready Room this week. I don't watch those clips, but I'm guessing that's where that was that would have been confirmed. But
I've been won over by her character, but I don't mind some characters being sort of background characters. It's I want more number 1, 2, and I want to see more Uhura this season. So
I just want to see her and Amanda together since they made a big deal about them being friends.
Surely they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm looking forward to more Amanda, especially if she's gonna continue to wear this blue dress.
Just, I feel so nitpicky, but like that's a weird thing to wear to go and chat with your son in. It's too sexy. It's good. It's a good dress, but it's a lot.
No, I think she should wear that in every scene of every episode. But she comes up with like this plot to we're just gonna fake this whole thing. I'm gonna introduce you to something from your human heritage, how to lie. And they concoct this crazy sitcom scheme to put fake ears on Spock, which I did like. I like there being a fake Vulcan in Star Trek wearing fake ears, since that's what fans and actors do. I mean, when you cosplay as a Vulcan or when you play one on a show or whatever. What they kind of like have to take Spock through. He spent so much of this episode learning how to human. Now they got to like reteach him how to Vulcan. So, what do you think of this stuff?
I'm trying to think. I think this was maybe at the point where I was a little checked out, and thinking it was getting a little too silly. I like, that said, when is it actually when he picks up the teapot later on, where they play what sounded like a few notes of the Amok time music? I know that they used that theme a few points.
I didn't
in
notice
here,
that. No, I didn't.
It was just it was the drum background, the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, but it was just
cool.
like it was just like a hint of it. I think there was at least one other occasion in the episode
when they're practicing, or like when he's actually doing the ritual.
I'm not sure. I thought they might have also done it a little bit when he was first waking up, but I'm not. I'd have to go back and double check it.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
We know that Nami Malamed loves to throw in some of like the old school music cues. So
I think
we're trying to get her on the show. I want to talk to her about like composing Star Trek music. I have questions for her, so we're gonna try to have her on at some point.
I think because of episodes like that like built into the more serious episodes about Vulcan lore, like Amok Time or Yesteryear or what is it? Journey to Babel, even Babel. I think because Spock Amok had already been sort of a Vulcan lore episode that had been comedic, I kind of didn't want the follow-up, notably Vulcan lore episode, to also be comedic. And so that's why I was like, I'd kind of want these. I wish this scene was like, a more serious scene or whatever. I didn't want the comedic episode about it.
Yeah, so I think I said this earlier when you were gone, but now I'm wondering, will season 3 episode 5 also be a Spock and T'Pring sitcom episode, since that was episode 5 of seasons 1 and 2. But
that's interesting. Maybe so.
if they can keep it, I mean, if they can keep it up, for me, like they've been great both. In fact, I would say like they even improved on it with this one. So I would be okay if they can like keep that quality, but it would probably get weird if I mean, I don't know. Like DS9 kept doing Ferengi episodes every year, so it is possible.
Right, they're in the middle of this grim war, and they're like, you know what it's time for? A bunch of goofy Ferengi hijinks.
And I'll admit, plenty of those episodes work better than others, but I'm glad that DS9 never gave up on that. They stuck to their guns. They're like, nah, we're gonna keep doing goofy Ferengi episodes.
You know, though, at some point, because we sort of know that Spock and T'Pring's relationship has to end in a tragic thing in some years down the line, I feel like they kind of have to bridge that gap a little bit. Like, it can't be lighthearted too often.
No. Yeah, there's going to be I mean, we got that in the Serene Squall. So, and I they're going to do something with Angel and Cybok at some point, so yeah, I think that we'll probably... I hope that we get that sometime this season. I would love to see Cybok. We know Angel's coming back.
That's one of my main list things for the season.
Yeah. You were talking about like Una not having much to do, which I agree with. It's like they gave her like a big episode in episode 2, and they haven't done much else with her the whole season, which is a little disappointing. But I liked the scene of her and Pike kind of in the peanut gallery to Spock and Amanda's fake mind meld. And I really liked Ethan Peck there, where he's getting like so like stressed out and worked up over all this stuff. It made me feel sorry for him. It made me feel like he's just like he's a teenager, like trying to like do all this stuff that like every like school or his parents or like whatever, like everyone's like demanding. Everyone has like all these expectations and stuff, and he's just like overwhelmed and can't handle it, and all like emotional, doesn't know how to like regulate or manage his own emotions. So
I will say that in the middle of a very silly episode in ways. Now, I know there's serious parts too, but that's a pretty relatable thing. I think anybody can probably connect with that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of relatability in this episode, just because like I was saying, like being human is hard, and that's something like some of us feel that a shitload more than others, but I don't think Sherry Redstone or David Zaslav or Bob Iger or these other assholes in Hollywood who want to maintain ridiculously huge bonuses for themselves, not pay the people that actually make the media that we all love and enjoy. They probably have pretty cushy lives and can go eat shit and die in a fire for all I care. But the common man will agree, like being human is pretty hard.
Yeah, their stresses, Father, are about trying to fine tune their profits. That is their stress levels.
I'm sure like a Quark,
like how much more egregiously can I rip somebody off?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of Ferengi would relate to that, but anywho, let's talk about like the chapel side quest and what's going on there. She basically is like, okay, there's no way that me and M'Benga are going to figure this out. I tried everything in the book. I'm going to go grab our badass pilot and our badass communications officer and try to fly through that wormhole and communicate with these aliens. So we get the Ortega's Uhura recruitment. We get this trip into the wormhole. And I kind of like Chapel kind of dealing with like this this is like a big like emotional struggle for her, the feelings that she has for Spock. So I thought it was kind of like symbolic of her having to like ask her 2 coworkers to go on this mission with her. It also kind of felt like she's trying to deal with these with her personal life issues with getting support from 2 friends. And that's kind of how it plays off when the Kirchhoff Blue is like, well, why are you so concerned about Spock and stuff? And they're like, come on, like admit to it, like he means a lot to you. And then we get like the Chapel confession, where she says he's even though like he's easier for me to connect to and stuff now, like I actually prefer him when he's him, and he needs to go back to being normal. But what do you think of like this sequence? You still there, Dave?
Um,
I didn't catch that. Again, I apologize for the technical issues. Sorry. Uh, One second. Hopefully we get them back. But with the chapel stuff, I really bought into Just Bush's performance and kind of the like she sold like that moment when like she's talking about like how important Spock is to her. And okay, I think Dave is trying to come back now. Do do. Let's say we get them beamed in. It's like we're staring at the transporter pad waiting for it to load. You with us?
uh,
What was that?
shit.
Sorry, I'm trying to get Sohel or Rachel or someone in here. No one's getting back to me. Um, but let me check my notes real quick, see if there's anything else I was gonna say about this. I normally like do this when Dave's talking. Um, get these to. Uh, oh, the big reveal here. Okay, this is important. This is cool. Uh, During this conversation, the Kirkovs admit to Chapel like that dude saved your life. You know, like we saw him switch his shields to your side of the ship and off of his side of the ship, and he put his life in danger to save your life. So, and of course, she was oblivious to all of this, and Spock didn't mention it, on the Enterprise when he woke up as a human. So, not only is like she like confessing her true feelings for Spock, but the Kirkovs are telling her, "Oh yeah, well he clearly has like these very true, very sincere feelings for you." So, that was a big moment for her. But she does get the cure. But let's talk about like the hardcore hijinks we get with T'Pring and her family. I laughed pretty hard at T'Pring's arrival on the Enterprise when Spock tries to do the T'Pring parted from me and never parted, never and always touching and touched. Like that whole their whole like introduction thing, the way that they always have to greet each other. But like he's like T'Pring parted from me. And she's like, no, I've had enough formalities. I've been dealing with my mother. She's so stressed out. I don't have a really good eye for wardrobe and costuming and stuff like that, so I didn't catch this. But I saw a lot of people talk about how the dress that T'Pring is wearing, how it's clearly like not her style, and she talks about like arguing with her mom about what to wear. It's like, oh yeah, like it looks like this is something like her mom kind of forced her to wear this or dress up like this. That being said, I did like Ethan Peck's kind of formal Vulcan attire. It was like it kind of made him look kind of. This is gonna sound weird, but kind of like elf-ish, and kind of like an elf, like a Lord of the Rings type elf, but like not in an obnoxious way, like a way like still kind of worked as a Vulcan. But I thought it was a good look. So the costuming still top notch on this show. But there's a gag here where T'Pring makes like that joke, that remark about how fascinating, yeah, like how some creatures eat their young, or some young eat their parents, or whatever she says. Or then Spock kind of laughs at that and has to cover up his laugh. So the thing that I see that you're back, Dave, but the thing that I I loved about that, like, this episode, like, to me, like, it really understands Vulcans and how Vulcans work, or at least, like, the writing and the acting understands Vulcans. And Gia Sandu's delivery, it kind of gets old after a while, because she kind of has this very same talking pattern where she does all of her lines like this, where she will just say a few syllables in a group, then pause, then say 2 or 3 more syllables. But just because I watched this episode so many times, that kind of stands out to me. But if you watch like her face and body language, everything else, she's doing so much conveying. Like, you always understand what T'Pring is feeling and stuff, but she maintains like that Vulcan stoicism. So
Sure,
it's a tricky thing to pull off.
I think that sort of her speech affectation, her style, speaks to someone who's kind of grown up in that, in the role of like, a highly placed family, and has to kind of, all her words have to be measured, and so in a way she tones down, so there's no high highs of anger or disappointment, and no low lows like laughing and stuff like that. So yeah, you could argue that they are need to give her a little bit more liveliness, but I think she does kind of get that when she has those private moments with Spock and other episodes where they're able to kind of be themselves.
And it's, playing a Vulcan is like really hard, and I know like it's also, when you do like a bunch of Vulcan characters, you can't have them like all be the same. They can't be like all cookie cutter. So I was like, okay, y'all all have to be Vulcan-y, but you can't do it like the exact same way.
Right.
But then later when we get like T'Pring and what's his name, Savet, it's like Steve, but they just moved the T to the end. They're also both kind of like doing like their own thing. But I don't know. Rachel, thank you for joining us. What do you think of the T'Pring and her parents, like, when they arrived?
I thought they were like, there was like a funniness of like, I was like, oh, I've met these people before. Like, this is the Vulcan version of like, let's say there's a particular friend's parents that I was like, oh no,
yeah,
it's real.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Mm-hmm. And I love the dad, just like trying his best, trying to be positive despite everything.
And just like the level of control that like T'Pring like maintains, like, it's, I assume that like at some point in a few decades after this, like, this Vulcan lady dies and somehow her Vulcan Katra gets converted into a Bajoran Pa and she reincarnates as Kai Wynn. Because it's like, man, I didn't know Kai Wynn would ever get competition as like the ultimate space Karen in Star Trek, but T'Pring shows up to dethrone her. So
I'm not sure I like this lady. I don't see this lady starting like being like in with a cult though, so I think she's probably over Kai Wynn.
Yeah, she's probably not going to bang Gul Dukat and try to resurrect the Pa Wraiths anytime soon. But,
it seems unlikely.
She's not that messed up, but still a pretty nasty character. A good antagonist for this episode, in my opinion. Again, this is where Anson is so good, where he's just trying to help. Dave, I think it's like you pointed out in episode 2 how he felt like a great wingman for Una when he's like, doing like all the hard work, trying to go find this badass lawyer for her and stuff like that. And here you see Captain Pike just as much trying to be like the good wingman for Spock. He's a leader. He's a captain who doesn't mind like, oh no, I'm gonna be like the support guy for my crewmen, because this, when it's their story, when they're front and center, then I'm going to fall in behind them and do what I can to help them. And it's kind of a unique trait for a Star Trek captain. We haven't seen that explored with a lot of the other dudes.
Although I did think there was obviously some funny moments where he sort of walked away like, this is out of my league. Like, this is on you, Spock. You got to deal with this one.
Oh.
You might have already talked this before. My internet was also going, like, I couldn't tell if it was just Dave going in and out. I think my internet might have been as well. But his look when he like fails to lie for Spock to Amanda, and he's just like, I don't know, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, he has like that apologetic, sorry, bro. I did, yeah. I tried it.
Anson has like a lot of fun facial express, and I think this comes into bringing in a comedy director like they did with Jordan, what was it, Jordan Canning. But
Yeah.
she got like really great funny reactions from a lot of these actors, but like especially Anson Mount. And yeah, one of the moments for me is near the end when Savette says, "Oh, do you have any more of that food? What was it, the Trevmel or whatever it was?" And Pike, he's
And he,
just
like,
been like sitting in a
snaps.
chair, like he's just been sitting in a chair, like ready to like jump up and do something, and he's just like that's something I can do. I can go be like really useful right now. I'm gonna take action. So I kind of like that.
You remember, if you guys ever watched The Flash, Tom Cavanaugh would like snap a lot. Like, I think it's just something actor quirk, but it like reminded me of that, and it like made me a little giddy. I was like,
Which
yeah.
actor? Which actor in the
Tom
Flash?
Cavanaugh played Wells.
Okay,
Wells
the TV
and
show.
Every variation, yes, the TV show. I have not seen the movie, and I kind of forgot about it when I was describing it.
Not the movie that's made. I think
Yeah.
Box Office Mojo is currently saying it's made like $47 USD. So you're somewhere ballpark, but
No, the TV show that was on for almost a decade, and the entire time they were trying to make that Flash movie.
yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, it reminded me of that. It's just like what actors know, like, oh, I know how to like do a thing to like make this a moment.
Well, Spock goes through like all the rituals. He does he gets the palm cot leaves to bloom and the tea pouring. I said like how I was like it's so silly, but her like sipping this tea, trying to be but I was so invested. I'm like on the edge of my seat watching this, like, oh my god, is she gonna approve of the tea? Is she gonna approve of it? Like I'm like biting my nails, like shaking in my seat, like just bought into it so hardcore.
I think there's something that the stakes are high in like for these characters internally, but they're also realistically high for us. Like I could see me dating someone from a different culture and having to do like some kind of like dinner that's like I'm not familiar with, and I'm so worried about messing it up and offending someone. Like
Rachel, I'm glad that you're here because you talk a lot about how just your bicultural experience with with one Catholic parent and one Jewish parent. So,
there's
I'm sure you're aware of sometimes these conflicts that can occur.
Yeah. So here's like one from my parents. They were supposed to be married by a rabbi and my father's childhood priest. And the priest kept doing all of these, and it was like a random rabbi, not like one my mom like grew up with or anything like that, because she didn't. She grew up in Florida and they lived in Texas at this point. The priest made them made it so they said they couldn't get married at a hotel, had to get married in like a chapel off a church. And then made them do, which is traditional for Catholic, they do like a kind of marriage counseling before to like make sure you're, and then pulled out of the wedding last second. And they ended up, and my dad's parents were so mad and went, "You're just getting married by a rabbi." Like they were so mad that they did this because he pulled out way too. There was no way for them to get a different priest. That would have been more comfortable, but because he had like
that really sucks. That's
sounds like a sort of deliberate sabotage kind of thing.
Kind of a shitty move, yeah.
But it just so like this trying to do like both parts of the culture and like the families trying to come together. I get that. Like, I mean, I've many a more fun, many a Christmas, and I've been sitting there like, okay, time to light some Hanukkah candles.
Well, after T'Pring sips the tea, she spills the tea, and she's like way into like talking shit about people. Like, yeah, I like the juxtaposition of Amanda being like the sweet mother-in-law. It's like, Amanda, say like all the things that T'Pring does wrong. She's just like, T'Pring, you could visit more, and you could have more self-confidence. And it's like, okay, that was kind of sweet.
Like, she's like, actually, you're pretty great, and you need to remember that you're great. It's like, what's wrong with you?
She's like, I like you. I think you're good for Spock. I'm glad that he's happy with you, And then T'Pring being like the total opposite, and T'Vet being like, oh, she's very good at, it's the awareness ritual. What is she's very good at like spreading awareness or bringing up awareness or whatever. But Yeah, she's basically like those of us who have like known Spock for decades, who like watched the Leonard Nimoy Spock, like we know like
Mhm.
when she's like talking shit to him about like you're a failure as a son, you're a failure as a like these are like the most like personal, like these are the things that like
Oh
sting the
yeah,
most, that'll cut the deepest, and he has to
it's
just
like
sit there and take it.
when someone insults you about the things you think about yourself, and you're like, please stop. Like,
And he's not
Yeah.
just taking it as the Spock who is able to suppress his emotions. He's taking it as a human.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, so he's getting like the full on blunt experience. It's kind of interesting to me how human emotions, based on his description, it sounds like human emotions are more intense, but Vulcan emotions are more powerful. And I'm not sure
yeah,
exactly what that means, but just like my read on it, and y'all let me know if y'all agree or disagree. But I think of like the Vulcan emotions are they're stronger, but they're like deeper, but you know they're kind of like more permanent. Whereas like the human emotions, I think they're like kind of like the heat of the moment, and they're kind of like more like
yeah.
instantaneous and
I was
harder to
thinking
cope with.
that human emotions feel like the way he was describing them, like more impulsive.
Yeah. Impulsive. Yeah, that's a good way of framing it. Um, which kind of matches how we've seen like Vulcans and humans in the past. But yeah, that
Hmm.
freak out scene in the bathroom, I thought was
Oh,
the way
relatable.
Ethan Peck.
I know.
It was relatable. Yeah, we've all kind of had that. Like,
Mhm.
I just need to like go like scream into like these towels in a room or something.
There have been
Uh,
times where I've just been like, okay, dealing with something at work, just with like people, I just been like, I'm gonna go walk over there so I don't like lose it.
um, but yeah, it's a human thing. I always say like, Star Trek is a show about like the human experience, and they do explore like a lot of humanity within this episode.
I Oh, what was the line that Vulcans have a Vulcan should have a stronger bladder or something?
Yeah, a more resilient bladder. I
Yeah.
love that too.
I
I'm
because I
someone
remember I remember thinking she's like because I remember a second before I was like she's gonna say something about him having to use the bathroom and then she did.
like a frustration for mine is when I lived with my ex Antonia. Like we would like watch movies at home a lot, and if she wanted to like pause the movie, like go to the bathroom, I'd be like, why didn't you go before the movie? Like you should have a more resilient. I didn't say that, but I guess I was thinking like you should have like a more resilient bladder. But no, like you can hold it at the movie theater, you should be able to hold it at home. Like I don't want to like break my immersive experience and pause the movie in this dramatic scene. Like, uh,
See, I'm used to having to pause it because I guess I have a more resilient bladder than my brother that I lived with for a while. So he was like constantly having to get up, but I'm like, I'm good.
remember like in high school I had a teacher. He was actually like a football coach and a history teacher, so I don't know how much he actually knows about human biology. But I remember him saying like the human bladder can maintain maximum capacity for up to 3 hours. So he would like he said that because like someone like asked to go to the restroom, and like he wouldn't like allow them, and he said that. Like I don't know if that's true, but like I always
I'm
thought about that. And
I'm gonna point out that like that sounds like BS that not all human bodies are the same, and there are other reasons people might need to go to the restroom.
yes, true. But yeah, I don't
I'm
think
just gonna
he wasn't a very bright dude.
you're gonna get like just as a woman, there are other reasons that sometimes start out of nowhere that I need to get to a bathroom immediately so I don't ruin some clothing.
Well, hopefully you don't have to deal with T'Pring or Coach Maynard's
Yeah.
judgment in those situations.
Mhm.
Um, but fortunately for Spock, Chapel does show up with his quote unquote vitamins. Actually, his cure. Uh, it's funny we see like Anson Mount again being like the good wingman, being like the good like support person, distracting T'Pring and Savette with charades, and how kind of like the double
Mhm.
entendre of the name of the episode. Like this whole episode's
Yeah.
like a big charade, but also like do they
I
actually play charades in the
I
episode?
was my one disappointment is that we didn't actually get to see them play charades.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, the episode like the runtime was already like over 1 hour, so
It almost makes
maybe
me wonder if
there's
there's a
like a
deleted
deleted
scene.
scene. Yeah. Maybe it's like cutting back and forth between like Spock and Chapel, but why it's doing that, it's also showing like Savette and Pike trying to play charades. But I could also see that be distracting from like the serious moment here, because this is kind of a big deal when
Hmm.
I love. It was so sweet
I
to
could
see like
see them that
Spock.
maybe film it and then be like, we can't cut it in here.
It was so
And it's
sweet
not
to
working.
see Spock like thrilled and enthused to see that Chapel made it back safely.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like at this point like he's ready to confess his love to her, but she's like I think she knows like if she hears it it'd be like the point of no return, and she does want like the real
Yeah.
Spock back, and she knows that he wants to be the real Spock. And yeah, so
I
she has
totally
to
get where
like
Chapel's coming from, where she's like, nope, not dealing with that today.
yeah, she hyposprays him right before he can say it, right before hitting the point of
Mm-hmm.
no return. But then when we go into like our ending, our big finale of the episode, it's we get the mind meld, and basically like T'Pring like barely like approves. She's like, I guess that was like adequate, I suppose. But she approves of the ceremony, she approves of the engagement, and that's when I did not see this coming, and it was so satisfying because like let's be honest, like T'Pring is like basically like a racist against humans. Literally like, saying like, oh, like
yeah.
the smell is terrible, like shit like that, like just like really god awful stuff. And so it's so satisfying for Spock just to be like, you know what, fuck you. I love my mom. She's like the best person ever. You're
Yeah.
an idiot if you can't see how incredible this woman is. I did all of this stuff as a human. Humans can be pretty fucking cool too. Get off your high horse.
I said this yesterday, but I related to like I've definitely a situation, people insulting me, I'm fine. People insult like my friend or someone like I care about, I'm like, fuck you. Like
I mean, yeah, like a lot of people will be more aggressive like that to defend others.
But I did love
but
that like Spock defending Amanda. I love that.
me too. I'm always like a sucker for like mother son stories. I grew up like very close to my mom. So yeah, Spock and Amanda, they've always have kind of resonated with me, going all the way back to Journey to Babel, the first time that we see the two of them together. And here, like I teared up watching this, just like Spock kind of praising his mom, saying she's like the toughest, most resilient person he's ever known. And then later, when we see the two of them in the transporter room, before we get that, we have Spock and T'Pring, and I guess whatever their situation is, when they agree to take a break.
Yeah, we last night we couldn't concur on like what that meant. I believe
Well,
the time is we need to take some time apart, right?
I believe that's what she says, but I mean they already are away from each other,
Apart?
so
Yeah.
it must mean like we need to like romantically detach, and I would assume at this point like their engagement is on hold. But I mean,
See,
we know eventually like we know where this is going. We know like at some point Chapel will get engaged to Corby, and Spock will get re-engaged to T'Pring, and then she's gonna stand them up at the
and
altar.
neither of those will work out.
Yeah, and Corby will die and be replaced by an android.
Oh, these poor people.
I know.
I'm glad they had to have a silly, goofy time this week.
Can like at some point, like between Star Trek 6 and Unification, like Spock and Chapel actually do get together? I would love that if we could like make that canonical.
I'll take it. Like, be cute.
But just as much as like I didn't see that coming of Spock having his big victory over T'Pring, and even though like he had already won, he like completed his crazy wacky scheme. His charades were over. He successfully masqueraded as a Vulcan. He didn't need to like pull the ears off and show it to her, but he did it anyways. Just like that, like Chapel probably could have gotten into the Vulcan Fellowship if she'd wanted to, but instead she's like, no, like I'm too good for you. And
I did love the like you could read it in my paper.
Either. Yeah.
Like I did love that, like that as a response of like, been like, nope, you got to learn about it with everybody else.
So there are so many high notes at the end of this episode because we go like I love like Spock ripping off the ears and then telling to Prill what's up, and then I love Chapel.
Like off the ears is when you get the Pike like coming and it's just like leaving, right?
Yeah, and then I love Chapel. I love Chapel standing up to the Vulcan professor who was a prick. And then I love Spock and Amanda on the transporter pad, and how like this whole experience, he's learned like so much more about like his mom. Like, oh my god, it must be so hard to live as a human trying to fit in with Vulcan society, and that's a part of adulthood and like growing up is when you start to become like the same age as like your parents were when you were a kid, and you're like, wow, this was like all that stuff that you were doing must have been like really difficult, and you kind of I think for a lot of us, you kind of can appreciate them and relate to them a lot more, and I like seeing that explored with Spock and Amanda.
There are times that I'm like, how did they do this? Like,
and we end with Chapel and Spock. Finally, Spock says to her, "You know what? I had this engagement with T'Pring, but I'm unhappy with that, and I have feelings for you." And Chapel jumps on top. When it's like the real Spock, when the real Spock confesses it, she's like, "Okay, it's go time now." So
I did like that. I did like that. It's like, even if the human Spock is easier to relate to, she's like, no, it's almost because it almost feels like it would be taking advantage of the fact that he's like going through all of this. To be like, no, I want like him to be fully like his full faculties and himself.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised at the I guess backlash to this. Like,
I know this, like, some people, this is not their favorite couple, which I get. It's fine. Like,
I love the two of them together,
like,
but
yeah. I think they've got, like, interesting chemistry, although I'm, like, sitting here being like, I'm gonna be sad, aren't I?
Yeah, Jill47 is saying in the audience, I like that Chapel didn't take advantage of him, too. And, we basically see in This Side is Paradise, or this side of Paradise, Kalami, whatever her name was, the blonde lady, who, when Spock got high on spores and fell in love with her, she was okay with that. And we see here with Chapel, she's like, no, like, yeah, like, I get, like, he's going to be nicer to me now when he's all human, but he's not the true Spock. He's not the real Spock. He's not himself.
I mean,
she doesn't take advantage of it.
Like, they, like, straight up say, like, he's, like, going through puberty. He's acting like a teenager and doesn't have control of his emotions. Like,
yeah. But I also see people say like this like breaks canon, and I'm not sure I would say like it breaks canon.
I would say it bends it, but I think I do care about canon. I think I care about canon a lot less than a lot of people do, though.
I mean, I care about it a pretty good bit, but like there's nowhere in the original series where they say like, yeah, Spock and Chapel never had a fling, they never did anything. And I think it is weird. It's definitely like it does kind of misalign with that. If you watch those scenes, I'm sure in the future when we go back and watch episodes like The Naked Now, episodes like What Are Little Girls Made Of, it is going to be like a little weird, but it's
Star Trek has always kind of done that since the original series. Like, things don't align. I remember watching, it's an early episode, it might be the first one, or like the first one that was not the cage, but there's one where they make a joke about Spock's distant ancestor that was human, and I was sitting there, I was like,
that's,
you mean his mother?
Where No Man Has Gone Before. But yeah, it was before they figured out it was his mom. But
I was like, his mother. Like,
he says like, yeah, I had a human ancestor. So
and I was like, your currently alive mother. Like,
in our live audience, people are debating if this is cheating or not, if Spock is cheating on T'Pring, but
who was making that? There was, and I do like understand that, like, where that's coming from, but and that was something we were debating. I did not take it because I took that to mean a breakup.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's a baby.
This is a thing that can happen in real life. Like, sometimes you're engaged with someone and you might fall in love with someone else and start kissing them. Like, it's like, I'm sorry, but like that's literally happening right now. Like, someone is like literally doing that right now. Like, life is complicated like that. And I don't like.
Stan was did not like what he considered cheating.
I also think it's weird that if people assume like monogamy is just like the default for everyone always and everywhere, but
that's fair.
Joel in our live audience is saying if you don't do the two-finger thing, it isn't cheating, but a lot of people might misinterpret that. But like, yeah, Vulcans do like the little two-finger touch between couples, so I think that's what Joel was thinking. But
I'm sure it is, but also that's funny.
But I mean, I've loved the Spock Chapel stuff. I love the Spock Chapel stuff in season 1 of Strange New Worlds with the Serene Squall. I love what we got here, and I'm very eager to see what happens next. I know it's not going to break canon. I know, like, at some point she's going to run off with Corby and get engaged there, and it'll work out. I'm not too worked up about it.
My theory, and this is like me coming from someone who like writes and reads a lot of stuff with romance, that like they're going to have like it's not going to work out in some way where she's like, I need to get away, and then she's going to meet Corby while she's away, and I'll be like, and for Spock, she'll be like the one that got away.
Yeah, and I think it'll be fun to go back and watch the original series when this is all said and done. I'm not too worried about it yet. I'm gonna wait till Strange New Worlds is finished. Hopefully, like a run of like mini seasons, and then at that point in time I'll judge how well it does or does not line up, and form my opinion, my final opinion then. But so far, right now, yeah, I think it is gonna be weird. Like there's the scene in The Naked Time when Chapel does like confess feelings to Spock when she's like, "Oh, I've heard how like Vulcan men can treat their women, and like you would always be good to me though, wouldn't you?" And Spock is looking at her like so confused. And before I've always traditionally read that as like, yeah, he's like shocked that like Chapel has these feelings for him. But now we can look at that and be like, oh, he is shocked that she's trying to reignite this fling that they had years earlier.
Or maybe he's like shocked that he was like, wait, still? Like,
yeah, like maybe at some point like his emotions for her get so strong that like in Requiem for Methuselah when Kirk falls in love with Flint's daughter and he's so like heartbroken at the end of the episode, Spock mind melds with Kirk and says forget, and he basically like deletes her memories from Kirk. Like what if like Spock gets so what if Spock has to like do that with like his feelings for Chapel to like forget them or something? I mean, like there's I'm not even saying that would be necessary. I'm just saying like shit like that. Like they have, there's so many options and directions they can take even this.
Though they are still doing the romance, Chapel actually feels like a character in this, where she almost doesn't in the original series. Yeah. Like, even though like she still does have the crush on Spock, but that was like her only personality trait in the original series.
Yes, and so I approve of what they've done with her in Strange New Worlds. They maintain the one thing we know about her, but they've added so much more personality and character, and gave her her own sassy attitude, and they gave her her own badass science stuff. Jill 47 in the live audience is saying Majel Barrett would strongly approve of all of those developments. She thought her character was written like a loser. And yes, I think Majel would be much happier with this presentation of Chapel. She was very vocal about her disappointment in how Chapel, how little she got to do in the original series, and how the character was written, and how she's kind of dumb and not didn't seem to contribute to the stories very much. And I think that I always kind of felt sorry for Majel Barrett, that she was going to be like this really cool woman in authority with number one. And it's like, no, you're not going to get to be the first officer. You're going to be like the nurse who's just kind of like Dr. McCoy's cute assistant. From what I heard, it's just like, it was always like focus groups didn't like her. I was like, focus groups didn't like a woman in charge. That's it, right? Like that's the story that Gene kept repeating. And I'm sure there's some truth to that. Also, there was concern about like, wait a minute, Gene, isn't this woman you hired as the first officer on the show, isn't this your mistress? This is who you're cheating on your wife with? Like, you're trying to put like your side chick as one of the stars in the show? Like, that makes us a little nervous and uncomfortable. And so he put like the blonde wig on her, thinking like they wouldn't recognize her as Nurse Chapel. And it actually worked, which is also hilarious. But I don't understand that. Like, I understand that it happened. I don't understand how. People do not look that. It's like, what? It was Majel's idea and it worked. It's real life Hannah Montana. Throw a wig on Miley Cyrus. It's a totally different fucking person. Clark Kent and his glasses. If hey, she's a good enough actor. She sold it, I guess. But I don't have anything else on this episode. So let's go ahead and go into the Gorn Egg section of the show. This is the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections I thought would be fun to share. Before I do that, just a quick reminder. hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. I know that we're all going to be tweeting and freaking out about like the WGA strike and the SAG strike and all that, but let's also support Star Trek Prodigy. We got to find a home for it. And you know what? Like, people are going to be looking for content now that nothing's in development and nothing's in production. So, hey, Paramount Plus, reverse your decision, put Prodigy back on. Or, hey, Netflix, Hulu, somebody, you can pick up Prodigy. It'd be cool.
Anyway,
but
like this would not be my preferred. If you just put it straight on a DVD, I will buy it.
Yes, yeah. Give us the DVD or Blu-rays too. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we need season 2. But Gorn Eggs, starting off, Chapel said that there's a strange energy anomaly. This is probably not intentional, and I might be the only person who brings it up, but strange energy is actually a term in Star Trek. Strange energy is the name of like the weird energy that turned Ransom into like the godlike being in the Lower Decks season 2 opener. So that was fun. Also, we get our first Strange New Worlds name drop of Dr. Corby, who was introduced in the episode What Are Little Girls Made Of, explains that, oh yeah, Chapel and him were engaged and he disappeared 5 years before that episode. So that's like 2 years after this episode. So within 2 years, she will get engaged she will meet Corby, get engaged with him, and then he's going to go off on a mission never to be heard from again. Until What Are Little Girls Made Of? Funny story, this is actually the only canonical image of Dr. Corby, because the Corby we see in the episode is an android. It's not really him. Spoilers for What Are Little Girls Made Of? But Spock mentions taking a nasal numbing agent. That's what T'Pol used on Star Trek Enterprise. And talking about like Vulcans don't really like the way humans smell, and Vulcan women in particular have a strong sense of smell. She also didn't like having to smell Porthos. I guess dogs smell terrible to Vulcans. Yeah, cute dog, but not to Vulcans. There is a fish tank in the Port Galley. So long before Captain Picard had his fish Livingston in the aquarium in the ready room, Starfleet were putting fish in the Port Galleys on starships, because this is like a fish tanks and Starfleet ships go together.
I've always thought it was weird there was only one fish in Picard's. It's
kind of a cool looking fish. I know in real life there was a bunch of different fish because the fish kept dying. Every I don't think those things live very long. But
no.
Spock has a computer monitor looking thing on his desk in his quarters that looks almost identical. It's a little smaller and it's black instead of gray, but it's like the exact same shape as what those displays looked like in the original series. And he also had one in his quarters there. And when he has that conversation, kind of like that Skype call or FaceTime call with T'Pring, he talks about like, oh, well, if we do like the family engagement dinner, my dad can't come because me and him don't talk to each other. That was established in Journey to Babel when we first meet Sarek and Amanda. They talk about how the two of them haven't spoken to each other as father and son for years. In Discovery, we learn it's because Sarek agreed to deny Michael's entry to the Vulcan Science Academy under the assumption that would get Spock in there because they didn't want to let too many not quite Vulcan kids into that school. And then when Spock turned down his acceptance to the Vulcan Science Academy to join Starfleet instead, Sarek just lost his shit over that. But that's all I have for the Gorn Eggs. And Dave's not here for subspace transmissions, but we would love to hear what folks thought about this episode. So please comment. Let us know. You can comment on YouTube. You can reply to my tweets on Twitter. You can let us know your opinions in the Tex-Trek Discord server or on the Tex-Trek Facebook page. Links to all of that in the description. We'll be back next week with hopefully a more stable show. Should be fine. But please come back, assuming, Paramount Plus, they took Prodigy away from us even after advertising Season 2. But hopefully they still give us Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation. I think it's going to be a Uhura-centric episode. Or an Uhura. Is it an Uhura or a Uhura?
I guess Anne, because her name starts with a U.
Okay, so I think it'll be an
English is weird.
Uhura episode. Yeah, it's tricky to say, but
she's the communications officer. We should ask her.
Yeah, she knows all the linguistic stuff, right? But that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to. I mean, they have to acknowledge Spock and Chapel in that episode, right? Like they have to. You know, we end here with like. I need to know.
If they don't, I will try.
Yeah, I need to see them either like they're waking up in bed together, or they're still like making out, but like one of them gets called to the bridge, or one of them's like whoa, stop! Like we need to like think about like something. Like I need to see what happens next. I need to know. So hopefully we find out very soon in Lost in Translation. Looking forward to that, and don't worry about Dave. We'll get him back. It's only a temporary setback, but thanks for bearing with us through the extreme technical difficulties. We'll address this. It's not going to be a recurring thing. Yeah. But thanks everyone who watched. Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming in and helping out as backup.
Oh, I just saw Joel's. I still have power. I can. Lady Kathryn DeBerg is my answer to that.
Yeah, he says. Rachel, what Austen character was closest to T'Pring? So, what was your answer? As people don't know, you're the Jane Austen. Where is it? Austenites? Like, do y'all have a term like Trekkies or Trekkers?
Austenites is one. It's like Austenites one, but also I tend to stick with Janette because Austenite is also what people from Austin.
Right. Yeah. So I'm a Austenite, even though like I've never read a single.
So
Jane Austen
is another one.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go with Janette. So. Thank you for being.
But yeah, Lady Kathryn DeBerg is Mr. Darcy's very pompous aunt.
Thank you for being our resident Janette who can make the Trek Jane Austen comparisons like that. Thank you, Joel, for asking.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for watching. Please come back next week, patrons. I'll see you tomorrow in the Discord server. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.